This is The Toss-Up, where we take a look at some of the topics facing the world of sports, and then we dive deeper. Whether it's your best friend's fantasy team or the future of college athletics, we're just trying to expand the conversation. We just want to take a look at the topics that keep you tuned in to the beautiful world of sports. Even though the weather may not make it seem as so, baseball season has been upon us in Bloomington for months, and the Hoosiers have been firing on all cylinders since February. Some new names mixed with familiar faces have seemed to figure out the recipe for success early under Chris Lemonis. It took until late April for Indiana to lose its first weekend series of the season, and while there's still some time between now and the Big Ten tournament, people can't help but say the word Omaha when talking about Indiana baseball, and perhaps for good reason. Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Dugan. Joining me on the panel this week, we have IDS baseball reporter Cameron Drummond and two IUSTV baseball reporters, Murphy Wheeler and Austin Matricardi. Guys, are we ready to talk some Indiana baseball to close out this season of the Toss-Up?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
All right, so the team is off to a great start. They just lost their first weekend series against Ohio State, like I mentioned. What or who has been the driving force thus far this season?
So I think when you talk about Indiana baseball's success this season, you have to talk about the pitching staff. You got to talk about guys like Jonathan Stever, Paulie Milto, players that can come in and dominate a game on a given night. Part of the reason that Indiana's had these recent struggles is because of the loss of Paulie Milto due to some arm soreness. But when you look at Stever, he's still a guy who can command on the mound, and by far that's been the biggest reason for IU's success so far this season.
Yeah, I don't know if you could really point out any one certain player out of all this team because they're a really well-balanced team all around. The pitching staff has been good. But I think on the offensive side of the ball, I think they've been really good as well. Just all up and down the lineup, they have really good hitters. You know, you have Logan Kluth, Ryan Feynman, Logan Sowers at the top of that lineup. And then you go to the bottom, you have guys like Matt Gorski, who's, you know, a really good hitter as well. He actually just hit inside the park home run against Purdue last night. So I think, you know, this is a really well-balanced team. I think it's a collective effort.
I think that the big part of this team is the depth. You know, you have a guy like Luke Miller who gets hurt and he doesn't play for weeks. And for some teams, that would be a big problem. But Indiana just shuffles in Justin Walker, Drew Ashley, Cole Barr, you know, whoever they feel like on any given day. And it's like Luke Miller's not even gone, really. And I think that's really, really something that speaks to the way that Chris Lemonis recruits. And I think that he's done a great job with that, and it's proving it this year.
Now, what has held them back at times, especially as of late?
I think of late it's been kind of an over-reliance on the bullpen. This was a bullpen that was so strong to start the season. IU still leads the nation with the best team ERA, but when that bullpen has been expected to go 5 to 6 innings, multiple games in a row, you can't expect that kind of consistency. That, with a bit of poor execution when it comes to getting guys home with runners in scoring position, kind of makes for a poor combination that's going to lead to a little bit of losing streaks like we've seen recently with this team.
Yeah, I don't want to say they don't have depth at the pitching, you know, in the pitching group, but I do think they're still struggling to find maybe that third weekend starter, maybe a midweek starter. We already know Jonathan Stever and Paulie Milto are their two best pitchers. They've been really good, but they're still looking for that one more guy that can really bring it home each series.
I think that something that's really held them back a little bit has just been, you know, sometimes it seems like this team is so talented that they may check out a little bit mentally, and you don't see necessarily them, you know, getting bunts down, you know. You don't see their situational hitting being very good at certain points. You know, you see them making some errors in the field. You know that this is a very good team, but sometimes it's just like the little things that really throw them off.
And I think you're seeing that right now in their recent struggles. I think Chris Lemonis has even said that at times, that, you know, he's been a little frustrated with their focus. And I think they'll eventually get that back. It's a long season. We understand that that's baseball, but, you know, they do have to, you know, eventually get it together once, you know, we come to the postseason.
It is a long season, and they're winding down, coming toward the end of the season. What to you guys is the biggest storyline as we head down the home stretch of the season?
I think it's just IU having to execute in these conference series. We talked about how the non-conference portion of the season is basically over. They have incredibly important Big Ten conference series, not only against Illinois. They got to go to Minnesota, closing out against Nebraska and Maryland. Those games are going to be so important to not only their seeding in the conference tournament, but also where things shake out nationally. And if IU gets the chance to host a regional or a super regional, they've shown some kind of failure to close out Big Ten games. They already have a couple losses in conference play. They took care of business in non-conference, but they're really going to have to close out strong in Big Ten play.
Yeah, I think another big storyline for this team is a guy that if he comes back and help them against that better competition, and that's Luke Miller, who we talked about earlier. The young guys have really stepped in pretty well at third base, and they've done a good job, but you want somebody with a little bit more experience. You want somebody that's maybe a little bit more reliable in the field to help you along, and he's just another bat in the lineup. So I think if they get Luke Miller back, this team, you're going to see them a little bit more full force, and we've seen them all season, really.
Indiana's got a few guys that have had really good seasons so far, and I think a big storyline is going to be, could one of them potentially claim the Big Ten Player of the Year, looking at Logan Kluth or looking at Logan Sowers. Those two have particularly been very good this year at the plate, so I think that that'll be very interesting to follow as the season wraps up.
All right, well, we're going to cut to break here for a second, but coming up after the break, our panel will play Buy or Sell, and we're going to do our lightning round, so stick with us. Welcome back to the toss-up. We're talking IU baseball here. But before we continue, let's toss it to Stefan Kreshnik at the media wall. Stefan?
Thanks, Michael. Atop IU baseball's lineup is junior center fielder Logan Kluth. The leadoff man is in his first season with the Hoosiers after transferring from John A. Logan College in Carterville, Illinois. In his first 38 games with the Hoosiers, Kluth has not only made an impact on the lineup, but also an impact on the Big Ten. With the most conference-heavy part of the season coming up for IU, Kluth has made a case for Big Ten Player of the Year. Heading into the season, IU coach Chris Lemonis was unsure who would claim the leadoff role. Now there is no debate as Kluth is batting close to .320 and owns an on-base percentage near .500. A large reason for that outstanding on-base percentage comes from Kluth's impeccable ability to get hit by a pitch. Kluth has been hit by a pitch 18 times this season. What makes that number even more impressive is the backstory of Kluth's junior college career. In his first season with John A. Logan, Kluth's arm was broken after he was hit by a pitch, forcing him to redshirt his freshman season. Kluth's batting average and on-base percentage are what one could expect from a leadoff hitter, but he produces the power numbers as well. He's hit 7 home runs, including a walk-off grand slam against South Alabama and a walk-off home run in a 13-inning battle with Purdue. The bottom part of IU's offense has been effective this season, and Kluth has taken advantage of it by driving in 25 runs. The race for Big Ten Player of the Year will be tight, as players such as Brent Pulane from Illinois and Noah McGowan from Ohio State have been raking the ball this year. But nobody should overlook what Kluth has done for IU this season. The team that finds itself as a favorite to win the Big Ten in numerous polls has a firepower offense that would not be the same without Logan Kluth. Now it's just time to see if the leadoff man can close out strong.
Thanks, Stefan. All right, guys, we're going to play Buy or Sell. Here's how it works. I'm going to give you one statement. You tell me whether or not you're buying or selling it. First question, buy or sell, this team hosts a regional in the NCAA tournament?
I don't think so. This team's going to have to improve its play dramatically to close out the season, maybe go to a run into winning the Big Ten tournament in Omaha to close out the season. I think they've just done a little bit too much damage to their reputation, to their RPI, to their national ranking so far, so I'm going to say no on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to sell it as well. All the things that you said are right. I think the RPI is going to hurt them a little bit. You see some of the teams they play in the Big Ten, maybe like a Northwestern, are going to knock them down in the RPI a little bit. So I'm going to sell it, but, you know, it's really hard to host a regional. You got to be a really good team, so there's no shame in that, I'm sure.
I'm going to go ahead and buy. I think that over the home stretch of this season, Indiana has a really good chance to boost their RPI, boost their national ranking. I mean, they've got games against Kentucky and Louisville, who are two of the best teams in the country. They've got some of the best teams in the Big Ten coming up on the schedule. We look at Illinois, Minnesota, etc. So I think that between those factors, as well as a potential Big Ten tournament run, I think that Indiana could be sitting there right on the bubble of being a tournament or a regional host come the end of the season. I think they could get it.
Do you think it's going to have to take maybe a win against one of those Kentucky or Louisville, something like that?
I think that obviously winning both would be good, but they do need at least one, yes, in my opinion.
Buy or sell, this team makes it to Omaha for the College World Series?
I'm going to say no on this one as well. I just think this team hasn't demonstrated its ability to put together a complete run of games. We've seen them gone on some couple consecutive game winning streaks, not against the highest caliber of competition though. And it just seems that when this team needs to execute against the highest level, so far they haven't proven it. They may very well show an ability to do that to close the season, heading into the early part of postseason play with the Big Ten tournament. But until I see it, I'm just not quite there on buying this team to go that far.
I think I'm going to buy it. I think, anything can happen in baseball. Anybody can go on a run in certain times. And I think this team's very capable of that, actually. They have a lot of veterans, and they also have a lot of young weapons off the bench if they need to use that. So I think I'll buy it. I think an Omaha appearance is very likely.
The key to making a deep run in postseason baseball, no matter what level you're at, whether it's Little League, whether it's the MLB, is depth. And like I said earlier, this Indiana team does have that. Last season, we saw Indiana kind of sputter out in the Lexington Regional because of, what could be construed as a lack of pitching depth. And I think that they have a much deeper team all around this year. I think that if there's an Indiana team that's going to make it back to Omaha, it very well could be this one.
Buy or sell that this Indiana team is the best team in the Big Ten. Not that they're going to win the Big Ten, but that this is the best team the Big Ten has to offer.
Yeah, I still think from a talent perspective, this is the best team in the Big Ten. No one comes close to matching the depth that we've talked so much about IU, whether it's 1 to 9 in the lineup or the guys who aren't even everyday players. Your Scotty Bradleys, your guys like Cole Barr who can just come in and fill in at third base due to injuries. No team in the Big Ten is represented as high in the national polls as Indiana, and the reason is because Indiana has the players who can fill in on a day-to-day basis at a caliber where they'd be starting for other teams across the conference.
Yeah, I think I'm going to buy it. I think they definitely are the most talented team in the conference. Now we just need them to see them, get those wins against some of those other good teams. They lost a series against a good team in Ohio State. Now they need to win one of those, maybe against the Minnesota, somebody like that. But I do think talent-wise they still are the best.
Yeah, this team is, in my opinion, the most talented in the Big Ten by a pretty decent margin. Obviously, there's other teams that are having good seasons. You look at Michigan, who's undefeated in the Big Ten. But, just the way that the schedule has worked out for, the different teams in the Big Ten, Indiana's kind of been put at a disadvantage to, say, a Michigan. So I think that they won't necessarily win the regular season, but look at tournament time in the Big Ten, and Indiana should be able to prove that they're the best team in the conference.
All right, it's time for the lightning round. You guys are seasoned toss-up veterans, so you know the rule. But the one rule, I'll repeat it just so you guys know, and so our audience knows. Keep your answers under 10 seconds. They could be 10 seconds or less. First question, thus far, who has been the offensive MVP for Indiana?
I'm going to go with a guy like Logan Kluth. I know we've talked so much about him, but setting the top of the order, setting up the lineup so well, and to do it as a guy in his first year of major collegiate baseball coming out of John A. Logan College, being able to get on base in the variety of ways that he can, and also bringing up the power, some unexpected power for this IU lineup as well. We knew they would take kind of a hit home run-wise, but they have made up for it with Kluth.
Right. I'm going to take, it could be anybody, but I'll take Logan Kluth as well. He's been a really good leadoff hitter for them, and he's had some awesome walk-off home runs. So, I'll give him bonus points for that.
Logan Kluth is very deserving. I'm going to take a different angle and go with Logan Sowers. He's the big power bat in the middle that, he does a lot of things well. He's really improved this year. He's been very patient at the plate. He's got a great approach, and when you have a power hitter with a great approach, it's very dangerous.
MVP of the pitching staff has been?
It's got to be John Stever. No one's been able to stay healthy and command his starts like he does. He's almost good for a seven-inning-long appearance every time he takes the mound.
Yeah, it's got to be Stever. Paulie Milto's been good, but, it's got to be Stever. At times, he can be almost unhittable.
I'm going to be contrarian again, and I think Cal Kruger's the MVP of this pitching staff.
Yeah.
He serves as the fireman for this team. He just comes in whenever Coach Lamonis needs him, and he just puts out that fire.
Best freshman?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't want to say Kalitha again because, he's not a freshman.
Right.
And also I'm thinking of first-year players. But I'm thinking of guys who can come in, make an impact right away, and deliver it. And I'm thinking of a guy who can come in from the bullpen. And I'm thinking of maybe someone like a Grant Sloan who maybe hasn't shown his worth so far, but coming to a Big Ten tournament, he could prove that he could be the linchpin to this IU pitching staff coming in and helping out.
Right, yeah, I think it could be somebody out of the bullpen, but I'll go with somebody like Elijah Dunham. He's given some really good minutes, or really good innings there in the field. He's played some first base. He's DH'd a little bit. I'll go with Dunham.
My freshman of the year so far is Justin Walker. I think that he is a plus glove. He has been very good at the plate at times. He's been a big contributor, especially considering that he's a freshman so far this season.
All right, it's time for the last word. What is everyone's last word for this season of the toss-up for Indiana baseball?
I just think they have the talent, they have the skill level, they have the coaching to make it to Omaha. It's just a matter of whether they can put it all together. We haven't seen them do that completely yet this season. We know they're capable of it. It's just a question of whether they can execute at the right moments.
Yeah, I would say don't freak out right now. I know they're struggling a little bit. They lost that series to Ohio State. They lost a game at Purdue. But I wouldn't freak out. This is a very talented team. They've got a lot of depth, like we've said. This is a team built for a run in the postseason, whether it be the Big Ten tournament or somewhere, when we're going towards Omaha.
My last word is fundamentals. Like I mentioned earlier, this team is extremely talented, supremely talented. They just need to be able to do the little things right. They need to be able to move a runner from second to third on a ground ball to the right side. They need to be able to get sack bunts down. They need to be able to execute on things like that. So I think that that's really the final step for this team, and we've seen them do it really well at times, and when they've done it, they've been completely dominant. But we've also seen them falter in those areas at times, and it's part of why they're struggling right now.
It's certainly been a good season thus far, but there's plenty of baseball left, so we'll see where they end up come the summer. Well, that does it for the show this week and the season. We want to thank you all for following along this season. On behalf of all of us here, a special and enormous thank you and good luck to all of our seniors. It's the end of the season, but our content never stops, so be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and on Facebook at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions you might have. Toss it up. Find out if we'll catch it. We'll see you in the fall.